Yo, what is going on, everyone? My name is Nick, or the Notorious Fantasy, and in today's video, we're going to be breaking down my top 36 running back rankings and tiers for week number 8 of the 2024 fantasy football season. But before we could get into things, I would like to ask that if you guys are new to the channel and do end up enjoying today's video, that you please make sure to hit that subscribe button down below like it owes you some money. Leave a like on today's video. It would help me out a ton. And whether you are new to the channel or not, make sure that you leave a comment on today's video if you got any questions. I love helping you guys out down there. So without further ado, let's get into my week number 8 top 36 running back rankings and tiers for the 2024 fantasy football season. We begin with the no-brainer running back 1 tier for week number 8, and that begins with my running backs 1 through 6. At number 1, we have Breece Hall of the New York Jumbo Jets going up against the New England Patriots in New England. Back-to-back weeks inside of the top 7 for the Jets, and despite the fact that they got bent over a table by Mr. Unlimited and the Pittsburgh Steelers last week, Breece Hall still managed to have a huge performance, and this week up against a Patriots team that I believe the Jets have all of the upside to lay a pipe to that ass. I really do believe that Breece Hall will put up his best performance of the season as the running back 1. At number 2, we got Derrick Henry of the Baltimore Ravens going up against the Cleveland Browns in Cleveland. And honestly, outside of week 1, Derrick Henry has been the most consistent running back in all of fantasy football. He has been a top 10 running back every single week, dating from week 7 last week all the way back to week number 3, up against the Dallas Cowboys in Jerry's world and up against the Cleveland Browns defense that reeks of being fraudulent. Derrick Henry should have yet another top 6 game. At number 3, we have Saquon Barkley going up against the Cincinnati Bengals in Cincinnati in the revenge game. Saquon Barkley took things personal in MetLife last week, rushing for over 170 yards and a touchdown for 27 PPR points as the running back number 3. We saw the insane upside that Saquon had early on in the season, ripping off multiple games over 30 fantasy points, and he has already had 2 performances as the running back 1. I love him this week as a nice safety net inside the top 6. At number 4, we have Joe Mixon of the Houston Texans going up against the Indianapolis Colts at home in Houston. Going up against the Colts is a match made in heaven for any running back, especially a running back that is as talented as Joe Mixon. Back in week 1 up against the Colts, Joe Mixon put belt to ass as the running back 2. He had over 150 rushing yards, 19 receiving yards, and a touchdown as the running back 2. When he's been healthy, he's been a top 4 running back in every single game. Week 2, he gets hurt against the Bears. Doesn't play the whole game. He's the running back 35. But outside of that, running back 2, 2, and 4. This week up against the Colts, I expect great success out of Joe Mixon. At number 5, we have Kenneth Walker III going up against the Buffalo Bills at home in Seattle. Now, Kenneth Walker has been sick. Motherfucker, I'm ill. Not sick, but he was limited in practice on Thursday. I assume he will be good to go, even if he's throwing up on the sideline. Kenneth Walker is another one of these guys that is just uber consistent game in and game out. The Buffalo Bills defense is far from ideal up against the run, and I do believe that Kenneth Walker belongs inside of the top 6 every single week, especially in matchups that are this solid. To close out the top tier at the running back position, we got Bijan Robinson of the Falcons going up against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Now, from week 1 through 5, Bijan Robinson was a complete and utter unmitigated disaster. Based on where you drafted him, you are crying yourself to sleep. It was hard to swallow that pill. It was a horse pill. Pause. But over the last 2 weeks, running back 3 and 9 in solid matchups up against Carolina and up against the Seahawks. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers matchup doesn't strike any fear into my eyes, so I do believe that Bijan repeats as a top 9 running back again, and I got him inside of the top 6. Next up, we move into the lower tier no-brainer running back 1s, beginning with Sonic himself, Jahmyr Gibbs of the Detroit Lions, going up against the Tennessee Titans at home in Detroit. Jahmyr Gibbs was the running back 1 last week, having his best performance of the season. Now, that was partly due to the fact that David Montgomery was banged up. He got hurt in that game. Luckily, it wasn't anything serious, and David Montgomery will be good to go, which is great for David Montgomery, but not the luckiest for Jahmyr Gibbs, because frankly, if David Montgomery was out, knock on wood, we don't root for injuries. I'm not rooting for David Montgomery to be hurt, but if he was out for a serious amount of time, or even just another game here, that we'd be talking about Jahmyr Gibbs as a top 3 running back. David Montgomery vultures touchdowns. David Montgomery vultures opportunities, but ultimately both of these guys can coexist in the offense at the same time. Both of these guys can put up consistent numbers, and I do feel very confident ranking Jahmyr Gibbs anywhere from the running back 6 all the way through the running back 14 every single week. I think he's a very safe bet to finish in that range. Next up, we got DeAndre Swift of the Chicago Bears going up against the Washington Commanders in Washington. Now, I was shocked when I was making my rankings. I make mine on Fantasy Pros, and I was looking at the expert consensus rankings, and they have him as the running back 15, which makes absolutely no sense because the Washington Commanders defense couldn't stop me if I suited up as the Chicago Bears running back, and DeAndre Swift is running incredibly hot. He is hotter than Selena Gomez in Spring Breakers, running back 6, 2, and 3 over the last 3 games, and coming out the bye, I believe he's going to be feeling real nicey to kick in the teeth of the Washington Commanders defense, Tony Soprano style, and I believe he belongs inside of the top 12 going forward. I've already waved the white flag. I was wrong on DeAndre Swift. This offense is a wagon, and DeAndre Swift is incredibly involved. A touchdown in 3 straight games. Next up, we got Kareem Hunt of the Kansas City Chiefs going up against the Las Vegas Raiders in Viva Las Vegas. Now, Kareem Hunt last week was the running back 11, and prior to the bye, he was the running back number 5. The Raiders are another matchup where it's barbecue chicken. It is going to be an all-you-can-eat buffet for Kareem Hunt. This is a guy that has multiple touchdown upside. He's going to get 20-plus guaranteed carries as long as he stays healthy, knock on wood, and he's going to get a couple of targets on an offense that's going to look to kill the Raiders. The Raiders talked so much shit in the offseason. I think Patrick Mahomes is going to take that to heart. They have like a Patrick Mahomes voodoo doll, one of those things where you poke it. I don't know what they're actually called. Maybe it's not called a voodoo doll, but you get what I mean. They're trying to do some fucking sorcery like the Russos in Wizards of Waverly Place. So Kareem Hunt is going to come in here and lay down the hammer like his name was Thor. I love Kareem Hunt inside of the top 14. Next up, we got Jordan, the numbers Mason. What do they mean going up against the Dallas Cowboys? Now, Jordan Mason has been down bad over the last 2 weeks. Now, he is dealing with a shoulder injury and was limited in practice on Thursday, so you want to monitor that because obviously if he doesn't play, you don't want to play him. Now, the Dallas Cowboys defense entering into the season, they were this fearsome, they were this scary unit. But now, it's week number 8, and there are a bunch of little fucking pipsqueaks. So Jordan Mason, the numbers Mason, what do they mean? Should have a vintage performance this week. He's put up 3 games in a row with 999 like his name was Juice WRLD, and I believe he's going to flip the script here and put up performances like he was doing early on in the season. I'm not panicking yet on Jordan Mason, but I will panic the second McCaffrey shows up. Next up, we got Josh Jacobs of the Packers going up against the Jaguars in Jacksonville. Now, things are starting to go Josh Jacobs' way. He finally scored a receiving touchdown and in his career, which is just insane, right? Because while I don't have the stats off the top of my head, I mentioned it in the running back start sit video, Josh Jacobs has so many targets. He is a proficient pass catching running back. He has a bunch of receptions, and dating all the way back to his days in Viva Las Vegas with the Raiders, he never had a receiving touchdown. He finally got the monkey off the back last week, got that 76 rushes, like he had 76 carries. That would be insane. 76 rushing yards, 5 receptions, 16 receiving yards, and a touchdown. He scored a touchdown now in 2 of the last 3 games. If he can continue to find the end zone, then we're going to feel a lot better about Josh Jacobs. This matchup up against the Jaguars has me bricked up under my desk like I'm in the Oval Office, and my name is Bill Clinton. Next up, we got Devon 2 Chains, running back of the Miami Dolphins, up against the Arizona Cardinals. Now, earlier in the week, I was a little bit more pessimistic with my ranking of Devon Achane, but then I realized with Tua Tagovailoa back, the amount of aura that is back in this offense, they should be able to slam the Arizona Cardinals defense. They should be able to dominate all game long. First quarter, second quarter, third quarter, fourth quarter, pure domination. The Cardinals defense will have zero answers for Devon Achane. I get things haven't been great since the first 2 weeks of the season, but if you remember back then when Tua was playing, he was a top 3 running back in every game, so I'm not going to get super overzealous and rank him inside the top 5, but I do like him here as a no-brainer, lower-end tier running back 1. Next up, we move on into the third tier, which I have named the running back 2 tier, beginning with James "Let Him Cook" of the Buffalo Bills going up against the Seattle Seahawks. Now, I want to continue to monitor his health. He is banged up last week, and that ends up with him not seeing the most amount of work, right? Ray Davis got a decent amount of touches. We will hope that they give James Cook the keys to the backfield back, because if they do, James Cook is a guy that could be a top 12 running back in any given game. The Seahawks defense parts like the Red Sea for running backs, so this is a great spot for James Cook to see some great success. So while I am a little bit worried right now, as we get closer and closer to Sunday, I don't think I can rank James Cook lower. Next up, we got Rashad with 2 A's white. Now, Bucky Irving is allegedly not going to play on Sunday, and that really has altered my opinion on Rashad White. I am much higher on Rashad White compared to expert consensus rankings. He's ranked close to the top 12, whereas on expert consensus rankings, he's the running back 27. Last week, he was the running back 2, and I'm not just using last week as my bias. Mike Evans is hurt. Chris Godwin is hurt. Rashad White could legitimately see 10 targets like his name was Alvin Kamara. And obviously, is that the most likely scenario? Fuck no, baby. But if he did see 6, 7, or 8 targets, I wouldn't be surprised. The injury to Bucky Irving instantly gives me more confidence in him. And going up against the Falcons, this is a spot where Rashad White could succeed with the pass catching volume. Again, I get he is as efficient as using some bubble wrap as a condom, but ultimately, when you have the pass catching ability Rashad White has in a great matchup with everyone else hurt, he's gonna get the ball. So I do like Rashad White a lot more than consensus. Next up, we got Javonte Williams. Now, if Javonte Williams was coming up against a different defense, I would use the argument that, hey, Javonte Williams had one great game, right? A blind squirrel finds a nut every once in a while, right? A broken clock is right twice a day type deal, right? Javonte Williams has one great game. He's the running back 5 last week, 2 touchdowns. Hallelujah. It was awesome for the 0.2% of people that started him, but it's not likely to repeat. But then you look at the matchup, and he's going up against a Carolina Panthers defense that gets raw dogged weekly by running backs. It has me feeling like, while I don't want to feel too confident in Javonte Williams, I also don't want to get the shovel out and bury him too far down the rankings. So while I am pessimistic, while I am slightly nervous, this is a really good spot for him to repeat what we saw last week. Next up, we got J.K. Dobbins going up against the Saints. Now, J.K. Dobbins is going to see a boatload of touches every single week. His biggest problem as of recently has been that he hasn't been as efficient since earlier on in the season. Early on in the season, his efficiency was unreal, right? Week 1, he's averaging 13 yards a carry, right? The second game, he gets 17 carries for 131 yards and a touchdown. He's a top 5 running back in back-to-back games. Sure, he has backed it up a little bit. He's used the reverse camera in his car, but up against the Saints, this is a team where the Chargers should be able to get up against discount Spencer Rattler, discount Patrick Mahomes, but you get what I mean. This could be a spot and should be a spot where they're winning. Are you bipolar? Because I'm by winning, and they're able to run the rock a ton, and I think that gets J.K. Dobbins into a safe top 18-ish finish. Next up, we got James Conner. But before we talk about James Conner some more, as well as the rest of the running backs in my top 36, I would like to give you guys a quick word for our friends and our partner over at Underdog. Now, if you're new to Underdog and sign up using promo code Notorious, or by clicking on the link in the video description, you will get your free pick, which today, if you are watching on Friday, is Victor Wembanyama, higher than half a total yard. You match that with any player in the NBA or any player in the NFL that is yet to play. And if both of your picks hit, then you receive 3 times what you enter into your pick'em. If you do multiple other picks, the payout will be higher. Not only do you get Victor Wembanyama higher than half a total point, you will also receive a first-time deposit offer of up to $1,000 in bonus cash. I understand not all of you guys are NBA fans, but Victor Wembanyama is going to play a ton of minutes. He's going to get the higher half a total yard. And if you're watching this at half a total point, if you're watching this past Friday, if it's Saturday or Sunday, you will just receive a different player higher than half a total point in the NBA, or an NFL player higher than half of a total yard again, plus your first time deposit offer of up to $1,000 in bonus cash. So James Conner is a guy that has been very up and down this season. Running back 8, 7, 53, 15, 18, 36, and 15. And it's not really his fault that we're seeing this roller coaster ride. It's really just the offense as a whole. Kyler Murray has been up and down. The play calling has been a little bit suspect. And the fact that they're not just force-feeding the ball down the throat of Marvin Harrison Jr. is very concerning in my opinion. But, and this is a big but, shout out to Julia Ann, James Conner is really good. The Dolphins' defense against the run is very bad. Now, my biggest worry here is that the Dolphins, with Tua back, they throw out all the stops. They throw out the kitchen sink, and they end up putting up a huge performance. They finally show up on offense because for weeks, the Dolphins offense has been nothing short of limp dick. They take a honey pack to his back and they go crazy. They go nuclear, and then the Cardinals aren't able to run the ball. But if the Cardinals stay in this game at least early, James Conner should get enough touches up against a bottom-of-the-barrel Dolphins run defense to be a reliable running back too, which even if they are getting smacked in the ass, he can catch enough passes to be a top 24 back. Next up, we move to Brian Robinson Jr. of the Commanders going up against the Bears. For one, this matchup is no bueno. For two, Jaden Stormy Daniels is basically out at this point when you're watching on Friday. I'm recording this Thursday night. After the game, you might be thinking, all right, maybe he plays. Like if this comes out before the practice report, maybe you're a little delusional, a little delulu, and you're like, oh, maybe he'll play. I don't really think he's going to play. So Mariota up against a strong Bears defense is a recipe for disaster. But Brian Robinson has been so good this season. I'll give him his credit. I'll give him his honor, right? I'll give him the flowers as a top 24 back. But I am nervous. Like, I don't feel very confident in him. And speaking of not feeling very confident, we got Alvin Kamara going up against the Chargers in LA. Now, Alvin Kamara is banged up with a head, shoulder, knees, and toes injury. His hand and his ribs are banged up. Chargers matchup is not the best, but Spencer Rattler is going to give the ball a ton to Alvin Kamara. He's going to get 7, 8 plus targets, so he'll be able to keep his head above water, but the upside is severely limited because of that. Next up, we move to Tony Pollard going up against the Detroit Lions in Detroit. Bad matchup up against the run, but Tony Pollard's a consistent 16 plus carries a game with a couple of targets. As long as the Titans don't get absolutely kicked in the gonads early, Pollard should be able to put up a respectable enough game. JT, Jonathan Taylor, might be back this week. Rumor has it that he was upgraded to a full participant on Thursday in practice. He's been out since week 5. He missed week 6. He missed week 7. And it's week 8, which makes sense because they didn't put him on IR. So they probably assumed he would just miss 3 games. But now he's seemingly back. Bad matchup. But Jonathan Taylor's really good. So even in the worst of matchups, he's going to be a top 24 guy. Final guy to discuss in the running back 2 tier. If you guys have enjoyed thus far, hit that subscribe button, hit that like button. We got Knuckles, David Montgomery of the Detroit Lions going up against the Tennessee Titans. Now, David Montgomery had a big letdown game up against the Vikings in Minnesota, but the reasoning behind that was because he got hurt. He comes back into the game. He doesn't really look like himself. Now, Dan Campbell went out and said, oh, his knee's got no issue. It's a wazi, it's a woozy, it's fugazi. Don't worry too much about it, but I saw what I saw, and I'm as much of a doctor as Johnny Sins, but I am a little bit worried when I saw that happen. I think anyone would be worried. Now, even if he's not 100%, I believe he's not. Even if they're given more of the load to Gibbs, metaphorically, of course, then David Montgomery, he'll pick up the scraps. He could get a goal line touch. He could get multiple goal line touches. He could score multiple touchdowns. So even if they wean back his touches, I don't think you can rank him much lower than this. This is really the nut low spot for Montgomery because once he's fully healthy, like next week against the Packers, we're going to be boosting him up the rankings even further. And I was a big David Montgomery fan all offseason. So if you drafted him and you watch my channel, you better at least acknowledge me. Shout out to Solo Sokoa. In reality, we don't fuck with Solo Sokoa here. It's this is a Cody Rhodes channel. Next up, we move to the lower tier running back 2 range, as well as the high end running back 3s, beginning with Najee Harris. Now, there are going to be people in the comment section with Twitter fingers or YouTube fingers, keyboard warriors, spamming in the comments. Nick, do you not watch football? Najee Harris was the running back 17 last week and the running back 10 the week before. Back-to-back games with over 100 yards and back-to-back games with a touchdown. But if you have eyes like the Hills, then you will realize that while this matchup is solid against the Giants, that they tried to include Jalen Warren more last week. And if they keep chomping away at the targets like George Washington chopped down trees, then you better believe that if Najee's workload starts getting trickled back, then that's going to make him less valuable. Plus, I still don't think Najee Harris is all that good, so I'm a little bit worried. Plus, is that Russell Wilson run a Linsanity run, having one big game against the Jets? Is that it? Is it one game? Is he a 2-game wonder? Or is it going to keep up? Now, again, up against the Giants, he should be fine. He's going to be fine. He's going to be a either high-end running back 3 or a low-end running back 2, and I feel confident in that. Could he finish inside the top 10? Of course. But I don't think anyone in the Lord's year of 2024 should be excited to play Najee Harris, especially with Jalen Warren poking his ugly head more into this scenario. Next up, we got Tank Bigsby. Now, Tank Bigsby last week in London went nuclear. 25 kill streak, 26 rushes for 118 yards, and not one, but 2 scores. 2 other scores short of having 4 scores like his name was Abe Lincoln. We're getting presidential here. Now, I think if you feed Tank Bigsby like Taft, that fat bastard who couldn't fit into the tub, then Tank Bigsby would be a guy that you're talking about as a top 18 running back, even with how bad the Jaguars are. Problem, the matchup here is very, very tough up against the Packers. Another problem is Travis Etienne might be back. And if Etienne's back, we heard what Doug Peterson said, and that's that, hey, you don't lose your job from getting hurt. Even though Tank Bigsby looks way better than Travis Etienne, we're still going to give the touches to Travis Etienne. Go fuck yourself, Doug, okay? Tank Bigsby is better than Travis Etienne. Now, I said that last year, and it was wrong. It was very, 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 very wrong. But then I hop off the Bigsby bandwagon because he looked like a steaming pile of dog shit. I don't know why I just held my S there like a snake, but he was shit. And I was like, you know what? I'll throw in the towel. Throw in the towel. I'm not going to let my guy die in the ring, Apollo Creed style. But I should have stayed. I should have kept banging the drum because Tank Bigsby's looking great, like a nice pair of titties on a summer evening. 6.2 yards per carry. I love Tank Bigsby. But with the situation being so dicey, I can't be feeling nicey. Next up, we move to Chuba Hubbard. Now, Jonathan Brooks could be back, could not be back. Even if he's back, they're not going to go balls to the wall with his touches. They're going to use the just the tip technique. But now we got Bryce Young coming in. That's not good for Chuba Hubbard. Chuba Hubbard was better off with the red rifle or the red BB gun, which is what he was last week. Also, they're going up against the Broncos, one of the better run defenses, one of the better all-around defenses in the NFL, and they could have Bryce Young seeing ghosts like his name was Sam Darnold, and if he's lost and needs a map, then they're not going to be able to run the ball a lot. Now, Chuba Hubbard, even with Bryce Young, had good games, so you could still buy back into that narrative. You can still talk yourself back into that, but up against Denver, I'm just not going to. I don't know why. Expert consensus rankings have them ranked this high. They've got him inside the top 20. That, like, sure, can he finish there? Yes, he's a good running back. He averages over 5 yards per carry. He has scored a touchdown in 1, 2, 3, 4 games this season, and they have played in 7. That's good. He's a good running back. He deserves more credit than we give him. He deserves the Hawk to special. But up against the Broncos, there's no reason to give him one because the matchup is too hard. Next up, we got Chase Brown going up against the Eagles. Now, Chase Brown is on an offense that in any given game could turn things up a notch, right? Turn me up and score 30 points. They could score 40 points. They could score 50 points, right? Obviously, that's more of a hyperbole, right? They're probably not going to score 50 points, right? They're not the Dolphins from last year, as if that fucking meant anything, right? Because the Dolphins just crashed and burned, and it was such a disappointment. But we won't talk about the Dolphins too much. I won't get too angry here. I like the spot against the Eagles. I do. But this is still very much Zach Moss is going to be getting enough touches to kind of not be able to make me want to rank Chase Brown much higher than this. Chase Brown's a very good player. He averages 5 yards per carry. He has multiple touchdown upside. He's going to get 12 plus carries. He's going to get multiple targets. If he can break it off, run into the end zone, he can have a big game. If not, he probably falls around this range. And I just don't really want to rank him higher because, again, Zach Moss has been banged up. So if Zach Moss is more healthy, if they go more his way, it wouldn't really surprise me. Next up, we got Alexander Mattison. Now, we had this whole big discussion about Alexander Mattison, the running back start sit video. So if you missed it, make sure you check that out because it was just a nice analogy. And the analogy in a summed up version, the Cliff Notes version, is that Alexander Mattison is the guy that you don't really want to play, but he gets it done, right? It's when you're at the bar and it's 2 a.m. and you struck out all night. You went up to a million different chicks and no one wants to ride you, Johnson, but you talk to this one last chick and, you know, she's not the best looking, but that's okay. And you get home and you seal the deal. Sure, were you going to tell your boys about it the next day? Fuck no, baby. But you did it. You got your willy a little wet. So that's good. That's what Madison is. You're not telling your boys, oh, guys, guess what? I get to start fucking Alexander Mattison this week, guys. Who's excited? No one's excited. But he's going to get it done. He'll be a fine flex. He'll be a fine running back 3 with top 20 upside. Back-to-back weeks inside the top 20. He's clearly better than Zamir White. But against the Chiefs, we can't boost him up much higher because the Chiefs' defense is very nice. Next up, we got Rico Dowdle. You might just get hit with the Rico McMillie. Now, with that performance up against the Lions prior to the bye, I just can't be ecstatic about Rico Dowdle. Now, I know deep down he has the upside. He was the running back 3 up against the Steelers in week 5. But with fat Mike McCarthy calling the plays and with Dak Prescott shriveling up, I don't think you really want to be bought into Rico Dowdle right now, full in, right? I'm bought partially in. I bought in on Rico Dowdle. I have all the stocks. I bought in early in the summer. I told you all to draft him. I told you that he was going to surpass Zeke, and it worked. But up against good teams, and a good team like the 49ers, this is when Dak will struggle. This is when Dak will throw multiple interceptions. This is when Dak will not be able to read a defense like Floyd Mayweather can't read a fucking page of Green Eggs and Ham. Sam I Am, right? He can't read a page of Harry Potter, okay? So while I like Rico Dowdle, and while I know the upside is there because he's a good pass catcher, he's a good running back, not a great running back, but a good running back, the situation here isn't the best. Final tier here before we get to the last tier. So I guess this is the penultimate tier, the second to last tier. We got the tier down running back 3s, beginning with Ramondre Stevenson. Now, the Jets defense actually isn't the best against the run, but Ramondre Stevenson workload has been so up in the air. He's been dealing with injuries. He logged a full practice on Thursday. I just don't know because it seems like this Patriots team is just a disaster. There's rumors about Gerard Mayo getting fired, getting canned, getting sent to Azkaban. The Jets defense has been bad, but you know they could be better. They get Hassan Reddick back, and Stevenson's been so up and down, really boomer bust. Running back 7 and 12 to start off the season. Everything's looking great. Then running back 81, 37. Then running back 4, he's back, and then running back 44 last week in a great spot against the Jaguars in London. Drake May should keep the team in the game, but it also wouldn't surprise me if the Jets came out here laying down haymakers, if the Jets came out angry and they really beat the brakes off of the Patriots, I wouldn't be surprised about that at all, and that would lead to a negative game script for Ramondre. Next up, we got ETN. Now, if ETN plays, he's going to get enough targets to be fine. He logged a limited practice, but he's just not very good. But we've seen good games out of him this season. He could be a top 28-ish guy, so I'm fine ranking him here. Next up, we got 9-inch Nicholas Chubb. Now, I'm hoping that this change at the quarterback position, the change of the guard because of the injury to Deshaun Watson, they were never going to change the quarterback position if Watson didn't get hurt. It's better for the offense as a whole that Watson isn't here and that it's famous Jameis Winston. We know who Jameis is, though. Jameis could go in here and literally beat the Ravens. He could go in here and throw for 5 fucking touchdowns, and I would not be surprised. Even with the ragtag CFL, XFL wide receivers that he's got here, I wouldn't be surprised if Jameis Winston really had a huge game. Now, I also wouldn't be surprised if Jameis Winston, you look at the end of the game, and Buddy threw 4 interceptions, right? And with Nick Chubb still being integrated into the offense, right? They're not giving him his full workload, right? They're still using the other running backs there. You can't fully bang the drum for Nick Chubb. I think Nick Chubb's going to end up potentially being a league winner. But as of right now, you can't be too high on him. Final tier here, the YOLO tier. That's the motto, fella YOLO. Shout out to Drake and also the YOLO song by Lonely Island. That's a great song as well, with that one guy whose name is escaping me. The other guy in that song, the YOLO song, if you know, you know. Maybe there's 2 guys in that song. I don't remember. There are the Lonely Islands in there. And then the guy from Maroon 5's in there too, I think. But no one gives a shit, so we're not going to talk about it too much. So Raheem, the wet dream, going up against the Cardinals. Raheem should be better with Tua, because the offense will be better and they'll be able to use multiple running backs. That's good for Tua, and that's good for Raheem. The matchup's good for Raheem, but I think that H-Chan's the guy, so I'm not going to rank him too high just yet. Next up, we got Tyron Tracy. Now, Tyron Tracy is better than Singletary, but they're still going to use Singletary a decent amount, and this matchup here is tough as rocks. Steelers defense is no joke, and the Giants offense is a joke. The Giants offensive line is a complete and utter unmitigated disaster, so we're not ranking Tracy higher. Eckler, he's going to get his targets. He's going to be fine. Now, last week wasn't a fine game because he didn't get a lot of carries, and he didn't see that big boom target, right, where he catches the ball and goes 30 yards, right? If he does that, he's going to get you 10 to 12 points. If not, he's going to be down bad, get you 4 points like last week. Next up, we got Zach Moss. Now, it feels like his favor in this offense is going down the gutter, but he's been banged up, so maybe a more healthy version of him gets pushed for more touches. Again, wouldn't want to attach my name to Zach Moss at this point. I would rather attach my name to Chase Brown, but Zach Moss could still fall ass backwards in the end zone. Finally, Jaylen Warren here. 12 carries last week, 44 yards, 3 targets, 2 receptions, 15 yards. They're bringing him more into the offense, which is good for him. Bad for Najee. Probably bad for both of them, though, because I don't think they're really going to both be able to coexist as these elite running backs. But the matchup here against the Giants is fine enough to where there is a realm of possibility that he does score, especially in garbage time. Thank you guys all so much for watching today's video. If you didn't enjoying, make sure you guys hit that subscribe button like it owes you some money. Leave a like on today's video. It would help me out a ton. If you want to follow me on Twitter or X, please do so at NotoriousFantasy. My updated rankings and tiers are available on the Patreon for $7.50. Link in the video description. Check out Underdog for your free pick for today. Victor Wembanyama, higher than half a total point. You match that with any other player in the NFL or in the NBA. If both picks hit, you get 3 times your entry fee. If you do multiple other picks, then the payout is higher. If Victor Wembanyama already played, then if you use promo code Notorious or click on the link in the video description, you'll get a different free pick plus a first-time deposit offer of up to $1,000 in bonus cash. I love you guys more than you'll ever know. Hope you guys have a great one, and as always, good boy!